that consciousness makes you choose every nanosecond the right reality so you can keep on expanding your life.
Welcome to the show, Shehnaz Soni. I'm so grateful and excited to have you here today. And in starting off, I'd love to ask you to introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm aware of my existence, and I want everybody else to be aware of their existence because all of us are one, all of us are interconnected, all of us are affecting each other, and we are the universe seeking to understand ourselves. So, who am I is a question that we should ask every single day, and the answer should be different every single day.
We're always growing and evolving, right?
Exactly. That's why it's a great question to ask and look at it from so many different vantage points, right? Because it depends on where do I want to go and what part of the story I want to share. However, the very fact that I have covered who am I in my own way in the quantum being.
Your book.
Yes, chapter 1 to 4, I kind of show that what is the reason I have showed up in this capacity where we are having this exchange that can be enlightening for ourselves and for everybody who dials into this exchange.
You know, I was listening to your book, actually, those chapters when I was going for I think it was around a 9-mile trail hike out in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I just invite anyone who's listening to pick up this book, or I had it on Audible so that I could listen while I was moving. But what I love about it is your curiosity and openness to discovery, right? And discovery in so many different ways. And I feel like for the reader, you just have this beautiful invitation to invite, you're inviting people to discover who they are as well.
Right, because that childlike curiosity, right? We were born with it. And we, for whatever reason, every one of us had moment in our lives when we stopped being that curious child, right? And for me, I had to really come back to it. And it's a continuous work, right? It's a continuous journey. However, because I'm aware of the very fact that when you lose that curiosity, that's when you end up getting trapped in someone else's agenda, right? And that's when you
Absolutely.
have like, that's why you
Oh,
have
no
ground.
one has ever experienced that, Shehnaz.
Exactly, nobody had it. So that's the thing that people are like, and the irony of that whole Groundhog Day thing is that it becomes very complacent. It becomes
Right.
self-fulfilling prophecy. And it can be one of those things that's probably worse than any disease a human can have.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you and I are very aligned on that. I would love also to just a few highlights. If someone were to look up your bio, because you have a very impressive bio, what are a few things that they might read about you?
So one thing is that my bio basically shares that, like as a human being, no matter what circumstances you're born under, no matter where, which country, which language, which race, which religion, which family, it doesn't really matter because that's just your starting point. And you have to kind of look at it as like, okay, these are the parameters I'm under. And then if you actually keep that childlike curiosity that you mentioned, right? And you keep on saying that what do you need for your soul? What do you need for your consciousness? And if you keep on that journey, which is what I did, and there was lots of obstacles, there was lots of time. I stayed married for 10 years, like I did all these Groundhog Day thing.
You
I
mean
was
everything didn't go exactly as planned and perfectly?
I know, can you believe how, that's the irony of the whole thing is that because I was actually brainwashed into thinking that everything should go exactly according to the
Me
plan.
too.
Right? Because
Yes.
of all the fairy tales and all the Bollywood movies and all the places where people are like, and first of all, in my culture, we were continuously like shown through the media that girl, will always have lots of problems, but the guy is going to solve all the problems.
Oh, for everyone, for the
For
girl, a woman.
everyone, for
Oh,
them, for
okay.
him, for the whole family, for the whole world. And the
Okay.
very fact that you have such a high expectation from a guy, which is pure brainwashing, and then you get married to somebody who actually can barely you know.
Take care of his own things.
Exactly. Like I was about to say, parents change their own diaper. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But the point is like, it's like a huge, and I think that to me is a very big problem for both men and women. Because see, when you're groomed to have a certain mindset, then you expect that. And then the guy are like, how can you expect that from me? I'm just a human like you are, right? So they
right.
are also kind of like, it's not good for them because now they're disappointing, right, women. So it becomes kind of a challenge for both masculine and feminine to show up in the right way to really have the most beautiful, incredible union.
You've had such an incredible journey and you share a lot of it in your book. I'd love for you to speak a little bit more for the audience right now about how your view of masculine and feminine, relationships or even within ourselves, how that has evolved for you over time from your childhood to now.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. One of the things that I've realized that, and Kabbalistic teaching highlights the fact that we each has masculine and feminine within us,
Hmm.
right? Yin and yang duality. It's all encompassed in every one of us. So first we have to become able to neutralize our own self before we can interact with another human being. So that's where it's the most key
Right,
thing is that everybody's lost and then they're creating more problem with each other, then what happens? You're perpetuating in the very trauma that you need to resolve,
right,
right? So
right.
that to me is where it comes, is like you have to be neutralized within yourself, and you cannot expect ever anyone, whether it's a man or a woman or a mother or a child, to solve your problem for you. That's the ultimate message.
It's so interesting because I was just talking in another interview about leadership, right? And what the importance of tapping into who you are and really understanding who you are as best you can, knowing that it's going to evolve over time, but that is is where it starts in order to be able to lead, in order to be able to grow. And I think what you're saying is very similar, just in a different context of understanding the dualities of who I am so that I can show up in all areas of life,
Exactly,
right?
because if you think about it, you're leading all these trillions of microorganisms within you, the cells, right? Whatever subatomic level it gets. So all of these, it's like you're leading that effort, right? In the form of a soul, in the form of consciousness. So it's a pretty big job for you because you have to maintain this craft, right? And make sure that it works and functions, but it also taps into all the rich resources it was born to do. And in order to do all of that, you have to understand that. Like to me, the way I understand everything about human craft and our soul and our consciousness, we are not teaching that in our school. So therefore, and there's no mechanism where people can truly learn it other than going through it like you and I have gone through.
Right,
And that to me is kind of a little bit, that to me is not necessarily right. Because if you think about it, isn't it like we teach everybody, like, if you want to catch a fish, you teach them how to
right,
catch a fish. There's a
right,
training program. Why would you not train every human being to be the maximum potential person,
right,
right? Rather than doing divergent where everybody ends up picking the profession that they shouldn't. You see my
right.
point?
Oh,
That's
I absolutely agree. Yeah, to me
that's
well, it gets back to what you were saying about what we were talking about the socialization, right? Just kind of adopting someone else's and not being responsible too, because if we're growing up in a culture and look, there's so many different cultures and different things, but we can all agree that there's some of the things we picked up in our childhood that aren't ours, right? No
well, yeah,
matter where.
because that is the interconnection that creates a challenge at the same time. That's why, like, interconnection can be useful, right? When you're working together and making a rocket and going to Mars, and that's interconnection, in at least everybody's agreeing on the same goal. And then, we have, but that same interconnection can create a problem when you're fighting with each other, or having all these trauma, right, that you're perpetuating on it. And then so it's almost like it becomes very toxic very fast. So both cases, if you can understand that what our faculty is all about, and what are all the things that we are born with in terms of, like what are the characteristics of a human, right? Because it's important to
Right,
understand that, and then you can maximize the potential, right? Like you can
yeah,
direct yourself, like Finding Nemo is like, where do we all want to swim to?
right, right.
That is the
Yeah,
best way we can do this.
yeah,
Is
I
we have to have
agree.
that.
And I'm so excited. I know there are people who are working on changing education, right? What does it look like to help because I don't know about you, but I look at some of these little children And I'm like, they are so awesome. They know so much, but it's not necessarily the world that we knew that we grew up in, but they're coming with so much beautiful love. They're coming with so much uh, connection to all that is. And what do we do right now, or up until now? We've kind of squashed that early on in childhood.
Actually, that is the thing, right? The Gen X, for example, or all these different generation. I think Gen X has been sandwiched between the baby boomer and the millennial, right? But one of the challenge we had was that we had a lot of trauma, but we are working on getting rid of it rather than keep on perpetuating it like baby boomer
Right.
did, because they were all about dictatorship. I mean, no offense, but all my bosses at Boeing were baby boomers, and their expectation was that you have to work 80 hours. It doesn't matter whether you are productive or not, but you have to
Oh,
work
yeah.
80 hours. And to me, that made no sense. I'm like, I
Made
can do
no
my job
sense.
in 20. How about that?
Oh
But
my gosh. It's so
right?
true. Oh no, I remember telling early on, obviously I didn't stay working for other people for very long, but I remember my boss saying, I said, okay, I'm going to go. And he looked at his watch and said, it's not 5 yet.
And I'm
And I
like, why
said,
would
but
you?
I'm done.
Exactly. And
Did
why
you
would
have
you?
something
And
else?
if anybody is only showing up like to make sure they are precisely fulfilling their hours, and if the only goal they have is that, then they are the least productive person in the company. And why would you want
Absolutely.
to keep them? Like the entire mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so like that requires change, right? Just like education. But going back to children, right? So my youngest is 13, and I always felt like that he's like a president of the United States, the way he carries himself. Like it's not like he needs to know everything, but he has this confidence. Like
Mm,
he truly has this thing where he lives in a present, he's very intelligent, and it's just the way he carries himself. And I almost feel like that the kids that are coming, the younger and younger version of our human beings right now,
mhm.
they seem to be very much tapped into the quantum field in a
Yeah.
way that they are ready to rock and roll, and they are not going to go through all the trauma that Gen X did. And I think that that to me is a huge promise for humanity.
Yeah, I agree. It's beautiful and it's really beautiful to watch. So tell me about the quantum bean. So if someone's hearing this and they haven't read your book and they haven't heard or listened to you before, what do you mean by the quantum bean?
So quantum being makes us aware of our quantum existence at the subatomic level. If you all agree that we are all moving electrons or moving quarks and leptons, if you all agree to that, and then if you agree that double slit experiment 100 years ago did prove that by looking at the electron it changes the way it behaves, right? If you agree to those two parameter, which is the key in my book,
Hmm.
then that is the quantum aspect of our existence. And being, we are human beings. So I just changed the word human to quantum because it kind of makes us aware of the sinusoidal wave that we're continuously forming with our existence. And when you really understand the fact that that waveform is never, ever static, it's dynamic.
Mm,
And that quantum behavior that we exhibit, even in our properties and in our characteristics, should be given to every single one of us to not expect us to be anything but quantum being.
mm,
And when we have all these problems in our world because we truly don't understand what human being or quantum being is, because we have expectation from someone who is continuously having to co-create the universe with their existence, with their vibration, with their frequency, to actually be collapsing with certain contracts, right? Like every
mm,
single thing that we do, like even when I listen to some of the Indian songs, right? It's all about like, and of course, I'm very much into love, right? The love that
mm.
you find that you can be with. I would love that. But the very fact that there was a song I was listening to, and the guy was saying that you make sure you stay with me no matter what. I'm like, okay, there's a problem with that. Because you know what? At the end of the day, that is what I'm saying is that, you have to choose to be showing up in someone's life every single nanosecond because you really want to, not
Right,
because you have to.
right.
And I think that changes the entire dynamic of every single contract that we have with other human beings.
Absolutely. And what do you think is the positive potential of that change in contracts?
It's almost like accepting for who you are, right? Like if you
Mm,
accept that you have these characteristics, right? Because there's a lot of positive because you're continuously changing your vibration and frequency. That's why you're so adaptable. That's why you're able to self sustain. Because if you wouldn't have had these parameters, you would not be able to survive with what's to come in our world, right? We have so much continuous changes happening in humanity, their consciousness, with technology, with AI, with all the thing that's coming in our way. And if you don't adapt and dance with it like everything else is, then we are going to ultimately be overcome by whatever is more adaptive.
I love that, and I think the adaptation that you talk about is so important right now because the changes that are happening more rapidly, right? And so as we are, learning how to adapt and evolve and look at things new ways and learn more about ourselves in the process, it's almost like the external world is putting pressure on us to do it more quickly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but you know what? The quickly part is where we are going to, that's what I actually teach. That's what I exhibit. And that's what I would share right now, that every one of us should decide how we want to show up in the world. And we should not be attached to the quickly part of it because the time is an illusion. Time was
Right.
meant to be a tool for us, not the other way around. We're not
Right.
supposed to be enslaved by time. We're supposed to use time as a gift, as a way to trace each other, right, into material existence. So yeah, so to me that is what I'm doing because I always had very high expectation of myself, okay, which is the reason my resume looks really good, right? It was
Mhm.
funny because I was dating this one guy and then I shared him my resume and he said that your resume is like the most incredible, like a user manual, like some sort of like a beautiful, like he used a different analogy and he said that my resume looks like a coloring book compared to you. And I thought that was hilarious because he was just like he was overwhelmed with that, right? But the point is, it's partly because I was following whatever the perception, the successful perception is, because I'm glad that I followed it because I would have not realized that that actually was false. I had to go
Right.
all the way there to the dangling carrot, right? For me, and that's why I always encourage everybody that whatever excites you, do it. No
Yeah.
matter what, the whole world can judge you. If you want to make $1 million, make it, please. Do it.
Right.
Because you
Yeah.
have to get there so you can have different vantage points. And that's the only way they can even find all the available channels because some of the channels are going to be available to you depending on where you are in your vantage point, right? And
Right.
every single time when you move your mindset, when you move your perception, when you move your understanding, then all the different channel opens up.
Right. And let me ask you this, if there is someone listening right now who maybe, maybe in their late 40s, maybe in their 50s, and they're thinking it's too late for me. I'm getting back to your idea of time being an illusion. And they're thinking it's too late for me. What would you say to that person?
I would say too late for what? That would be my first question
Mhm.
because whatever you want, like I mean there's a reason you want it. So to me, if you like I always ask people that if you have like a 1 month to live, what would you do? And everybody completely reprioritizes their entire life. But if you really think about it, we are truly very, very delicate species, right? I mean we can easily disappear for many reasons, right? Disease or
Mhm.
accident or something happens or heart stops working. So at the end of the day, we don't even know how long we're going to be existing.
Right.
So
Right.
then, if you really want something, and the very fact that you say too late, then I'm like, you are the one who's coming in your own way.
So why do you think at least I find it in my work, a lot of people have that sensation, right? And I love what you said. I used to do some work in hospital settings in palliative care, ER, ICU. So people who actually were being told they don't have, even at 28, 29, they don't necessarily have more than a few months sometimes to live. And so I've been so honored to witness that transition for people when they're facing death a lot earlier than they think. And my question for you, and I've thought about this a lot, is why is that such a challenge for so many of us to really choose who we want to be and what we want to do in each moment?
It's because we let other people decide what our fate is. I mean, the very fact that, according to me, by the way, and I'm going to be very honest with you, is that the doctor, no matter what they see, they can see biologically that there is a concern and they can communicate that based on the track record or based on the data that we have seen, because they can never be 100% sure when somebody's going to die. So for them to
Right.
make any kind of assessment that you have 2 months to live or 6 weeks to live, is kind of putting a spell on them. And the irony is
Mm.
that these people are already very vulnerable, right? So, of course, they're going to take the doctor's word for it. And now they're going to make sure that they die within the precise time.
True. Right. Especially if you're someone who is somewhat intimidated by the medical field and that's a pronouncement, there definitely is a sense of it, this is truth, right? And this opportunity to tap into so much more. I love that you touched on that. And I'm just curious, in your lifetime, have there been moments where you've been on one side or the other, made the shift where you were starting to buy into something and then you made the shift out of it? I know there is. I know there is in
Oh,
your
like
history.
all the time, right? All the time. Though the good thing is when you've done it enough times, you become really good, right? Like now, like I was like, I had to 10 year, I had to stay in a marriage for 10 years to figure out that there was challenges, right? I'm like, okay, I'm not going to wait that long. Now it's like
Right.
a one date and we're done. I'm just kidding. But it's like you
No,
evolve, right?
I know exactly what you're saying. We can go down that path. I tried for 20 years, Shanaz.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, so
and it
you
still
know how
didn't work. And so I
exactly.
know.
Now you've become so smart that you can smell it from a mile away. You
Yeah,
don't even get to have a
exactly.
dinner with the person anymore.
You don't need
So
to.
it's like, holy shit, what has happened? But yeah, so I think that, and I think that to some extent, when we're in something, because whenever we're buying in, right? Because to me, it's like we're buying in someone else's, you know, illusion. Because like even with the doctor and the patient, they're giving more power to the doctor than their capacity to heal themselves. That's
Right.
and I think to some extent we all like to give power to others. You know why? Because responsibility is not fun, right? So I always tell my boys that the freedom and discipline, they're kind of right there next to each other. So the more freedom you
Absolutely.
want, the more discipline you need to have. And to me, that dance is the most beautiful dance when you understand that. So to some extent, we all want to be lost and have somebody else do the work, and
Well,
and they're
it gets back to what you were
perfect.
sharing about when you were growing up in childhood. You just find that right man and he takes care of everything, right?
Oh my God, it was such a beautiful vision. And then
There's no responsibility at all.
there's no responsibility, at least not for your life, to get completely messed up, right? And then of course you can be nice to them and love them. And I think it's not that hard actually. If somebody takes care of all the other problems for you, is that you do that. But that is the whole thing, right? Is that we keep on living life from external
Right.
instant gratification or whatever other words can come in your mind. And the problem with that whole mindset is that then it's like you're living, you are trying to fix your face through the mirror. That's what
Right.
it is. So
Right.
whenever you're going to do that, it's going to be misplaced, you know, it's a misplaced responsibility. And
Right.
misplaced responsibility is going to always bring you challenges, because not only that you're messing up your life, whomever you interact with, in whatever capacity, you are also messing up their lives. So
Right.
that's why if you can at least make sure you can take care of your challenges, then what happens is that then you can help someone else, and then you can attract the person who's also doing the same.
Right. Right. And and what do you, when you think about your this lifetime in this time space dimension, however you want to look at it, and the journey that you've been on, what do you feel is your reason for being here right now with everything that's going on this planet with humanity?
I definitely feel that we all embody everything that we experience, and I do the same. I just have been so tuned into like what it took me to get there, is that I can articulate the embodiment, right? So it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
that's why I wrote the book Quantum Being, because I could mentally explain all the things that are at play, right? In our consciousness, in our reality, in how we perceive information. And to me, that's very important for us to understand, so we can do a good job in this puzzle called life, right? Like I
Right.
sometimes I use the word game, but sometimes I use the word puzzle, because I realized the distinction, by the way, between the two words. And I was like, I think life is more of a puzzle, because it's not like you're winning or losing. It's like you're basically creating scenarios that makes you want to figure it out, because
That's
that's
really
what we're doing.
interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about that. I never really resonated with the game piece of it because that taps in for me to I need to do it right. I need to do it just that if I do all these steps in the right way, then I win. And the truth was that those were someone else's steps, right? And it wasn't until I connected back in with me and I really started listening. But the puzzle, idea I really love, because you're checking to see, does this fit? Does this resonate? Is this part of who I am? Is this part of where I'm going? Is this, I mean, there's a, when you're doing a puzzle, you might pick up a piece and go, oh, yes. And then you're like, thought that was the one, but it's not, right?
Right, because it's
And
not
it,
like a right, it's not like a winning and losing. It's more like that you are lost and you wanna find your way home, right?
right.
So puzzle kind of reminds you, and the thing is, you kind of create that scenario for yourself because you solve one challenge in your life, and then you come into something else, and then you feel like that if you feel trapped, then you need to untrap yourself. And that quest of learning how to untrap yourself is where evolution is.
Absolutely. And I love, and that's what your book is really about, is helping people to tap in, to look in, and to evolve. And I want to speak to something that maybe the audience is noticing. And you have a very vibrant energy around you. I'm sure you're aware of that. I'm sure people have said that to you. And anyone watching or listening will feel that. And they might be curious about, what is that? How does she do that? What would you say to someone who's kind of like, ooh, I want some of that? Because it's a feeling, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I want everybody to understand that we can all tap into the light, right? Because it's like, so of course I do have courses available for people to understand that light body activation, which is the practice that I do whenever I can. There's no limit to it. You should at least do once a day. But the whole idea is that, we are a light being, right? And when we become more aware of the light that we have within us and how we can enhance it, or what enhances it and what contracts and what expands,
Right,
right? So the more
right,
conscious you are about your existence, then that consciousness makes you choose every nanosecond the right
right.
reality so you can keep on expanding your light. So that's why I have a reality shopping course, which kind of helps people understand that how can you open more choices for yourself. That's all it does. The reality shopping enables you to become more aware of choices. So the question you asked earlier about people who are limiting themselves because of their age, right? Because we can limit ourselves with many reasons,
Right. Many reasons. Yeah.
many reasons. And age to me is one of the least one, partly because, age is also a perception. The very fact that you think that you're aging is also because you're buying into the mindset of everybody else's.
Right. Absolutely. So, what are you most excited about in the future, for the future of humanity, let's say? Just a small
I,
question, Shehnaz.
I know it's a small, you're right. It's a small question, and
Mm,
actually it's got a very easy answer. I think I'm very excited about seeing that what type of reality everybody's going to be choosing, because we all are choosing it. And to me, at this point, when you know that you know where you're going, right? And you're going there, whether you're going like um, in one of the Hobbit movie, the wizard, right? He says that I'm just going to walk with the person that I know who's the best, and then he walks alone, right? So to
right.
me, like it's like like Jonathan Seagull, right? Like a flying
Right.
seagull. It's like, to me, like I already know where I'm going, and I'm going to keep on going because that's what I teach everybody, and I embody it because to me I'm teaching it by embodying it, by doing it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because that's is the best way you can show up in the world. And to me, the more people who are going to do that, I'm very excited about seeing that, right? Because
Mm,
we're going to be meeting with each other. These people are going to show up in our lives, and just like you and I showed up in each other's lives,
right.
right? Because we're
Right.
going to do that
Right.
because we're not going to have any qualm about it, because we're following that bliss so much, we are soaked in it that you don't even have a question. Like you're not going to
Right.
think about it. Like when you reach out to me on Instagram, there was no question. It was like you knew what you wanted. I mean, and I looked at you, and you even said that I'm in the beginning phase and all that. And to me, I just loved what your
Mm,
motive was,
mm,
what you stand for, because to me, that is not the way people needs to show up in each other's world. Because right now, there are people who look at your portfolio and see how many followers you are before they can talk to you. And I've
right.
had so many people like that who never were able to talk to me because they didn't think I had enough portfolio.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, yeah,
Oh,
can you believe that?
interesting.
And
I
I don't
mean,
do that. And
yeah.
Next Level Soul, Alex Ferrari, he's not care that I didn't have any portfolio. Because of him, I'm expanding my portfolio. But that to me is an example of people like him who are actually the type of people who's going to open so much more portals for humanity because they're no longer buying into the old agenda.
Right, right. Well, one of the things, and I love that you shared that story, because I was just thinking about what drew me to you was that energy, right? And it's the energy of someone who is really living in who they are, right? And making decisions from that place, not on the place of the external, whatever it is. And that I've learned, and just so everyone knows, yes, I just messaged you and said, hey, this is the truth. There's something about you, and I really, really would love to interview you. And this is brand new.
Yeah.
So come aboard or not, and not being attached to it, and knowing that if it's the right puzzle piece, let's go back to that, that it will fit. And if it's not, okay, right?
Exactly.
And it's such a different way of living.
Yeah, very different because and that is where, like, when people have to struggle that you're living from ego or living from soul, this is a soul way of living because you're never
Yeah.
worried about rejection because there isn't any rejection to me whenever because I have old friends from Pakistan that I really love and adore, and I notice that when I send a message sometimes they don't even respond because I have come I have a different life, they have a different life, but I still send them message with a lot of love, and when they don't respond I say it's okay because we're not meant to take it any further, and it's
Right.
okay
It's
because at the end
okay.
of the day I just keep following my curiosity, my child type love, and I'm going to keep doing what Shehnaz would do whether I get reciprocated or not. It's independent of that because I'm not going to dim my light just because I have expectation.
Oh, it's, if there's one thing that the audience takes away, I hope that's it. Not to dim your light because of expectations of other people. I love that. I love that, Shehnaz. And it makes me think it's connected to all areas of our life as well. And you and I both mentioned that we were in long time marriages, trying to make it work. And if I think I know you enough to guess that you and I put a lot of work into it. We tried to make it work. We
Oh
worked
yeah.
hard to make it work,
We
right?
made it like an assignment. Like there was a full-fledged scheduled project. It was like, holy shit. I was like, I even wrote this incredible letters on how we're going to solve the problem. Like you have no idea
Right,
how much I
right.
wanted to work it. Yes.
And in the end, and then I mean, right now I'm in a relationship right now, but I had a period of time where I wasn't. And what I learned in that, which can be applied, what we talked about in business, or you and I connecting, is in love relationships, like if it's a match, it's a match. And if it's not, it's not. And there's no ego doesn't need to get involved in it. And that's really hard in love relationships. At least I've seen with my clients, they get tripped up. Well, he didn't this, she didn't that, they didn't this. And it's like, but how did it feel for you? Right. It's like, oh, but no, but I don't want to be rejected. I don't like the fact that that person rejected me. It's like, but if you're going for what your soul really wants, that puzzle piece that's the right fit, then there's no ego, there's no problem if it's not a fit, right? Would you agree?
That's
You're exploring this, right?
no, I 100% agree. And the funny thing is, a lot of time when you're in it, you don't realize it. I'll have an example. There was a one person I dated, and I really liked him, and I didn't feel like he was reciprocating, so I had to pretty much say in the letter that it doesn't look like we're working out, even though I would love to. And I kind of put my heart and soul out, just like I do all the time in my
Right.
life, as you can see. And of course, I was very vulnerable, I was very open, and I was all that. And then, and I waited for the response for some reason, right? The response never came. After and I still am like many, many weeks goes by, and somehow I'm still hoping that somehow, because, like a little bit sappy in love. And
Right.
then I'm sharing that with one of my colleague, who's like another engineer. And so I'm just asking him, I said that, I sent a letter, but I never got a response. What does
Mhm.
it mean? And then he said the very fact that he didn't respond to you means that you shouldn't be asking that question because he doesn't even deserve that much from you. Like the very
Right.
fact that he did, like it's almost like the question has the answer. So if somebody's
Right.
coming to you and saying, like I even knew a friend, she was brilliant, she was the most intelligent person in Pakistan, and she was spending a lot of energy trying to make sure that her husband doesn't cheat. And I was like what kind of relationship is that? Because you're wasting so much energy on doing something that's so negative, right?
Right.
that it almost is like that act to me in itself is stating that you're not really loving them unconditionally. And then whatever you expect from them is not going to happen, because whatever you give, I mean, it's like the give and take is happening at the same time.
Right, right. And that the attempt to control whatever it is, whether it's another person, whether it's external circumstances, can really take up a lot of space if we don't pay attention, right?
Right. And you're spending your energy doing something that is not good for you at all.
Right, right. So what would you say to someone who loves the vibe that you bring, understands left brain understanding of the words that you're saying and what we're talking about, but has no idea of that first next step? What would you say to that person?
I would say that the fact that you know what you like, right? The fact that they like
Mhm.
seeing people who are uplifting or seeing people who are embodying what they want to embody, then that's the step number one. Because it's like good. Now you need
Mm,
to make sure that you like something means you want to attract that in
mm,
you. And
mm.
that is a step in the right direction. So I would say that that means that you actually are ready for that new life to merge with you, right? And
Right,
of course, if they want to understand more on how I created that for me, then they can pick a copy of my book, The
right.
Quantum Being. It's available in audio, it's available in Kindle, it's available in paperback. And then definitely, like right now, I'm taking a little bit of a pause because, I actually believe that I only do things when I want to, right? Because then I want to teach that. Like there's no, like I don't have any method to the madness. Like when you sign up for my site, you will not get email like every 2 weeks or
Mhm.
anything. I don't follow any. I don't have AI doing any work for me because I personally want to keep it as organic and natural, because that's the reason the people that are coming to me are like you. They're coming
Mm,
to me for me. And I don't
right,
want to take that away from them if I
right.
completely make it structural and systematic and follow what everybody else in the whole world is following, where they every time when you go and buy something, then you have to go through like so many no's
Oh my
to get to
gosh.
the final
It's
checkout. I'm
so
like, what's
true.
wrong with that?
I just was thinking of that the other day. I'm like, wait a minute, there's just, I don't
And
know if
that
it's pages or what
I
after. And I'm
know.
like, oh, never mind. I'm not interested anymore. It's taken too long to get to
Exactly.
the point.
Not only that, have you noticed this video where they say that, there's a solution for something and it's very simple, right? And then they keep on giving you this Russian doll thing, but they keep on giving you more and more videos where you have to get to the end. And then you keep
Uh,
on getting sucked into this whole thing. And ultimately, you are going to be landing on a page. Ultimately, I'm going to tell everybody right now to just open up that Santa does not exist. Is that right there? You have to do this like monthly subscription for lifetime. That's where it always ends up. And then, of course, like even when you get a one bottle, you're going to have to be stuck. So it's kind of like it's like trap.
mhm,
And
mhm.
what I'm saying is that for me, like we already have so many traps that we need to be very, very honest with ourselves and each other. And I'm all about honesty and transparency. So the point is that I do have a website. I do have, courses there. I also teach courses every now and then. I am working on my next book. So I have all these interesting things I'm doing. I share uh, whenever I feel like it, wisdom through podcast and Instagram.
Right,
And I feel like that if people are liking what they see, then that means they're already pretty close to having it on their own.
right.
Because that's it. So they should be very proud of that, but they should make sure that they keep that spark alive and keep on keeping on,
I
because
love
we're
that.
quantum being.
Yeah, because you're a quantum being. And just in case anyone thinks that you have it all figured out and you have reached the end of your journey, and I don't mean in like physically on this planet, but I mean the end of your evolving journey. Can you just speak to that a little bit? Because I think sometimes people see you, they hear you, they feel your energy, and they're like, oh, she's got it all figured out. So anything you want to share in that would be helpful for someone wondering.
Yeah, no one person has it all figured out. That's why we need each other.
Right.
And that's why we have to work together, right? So we can figure it out. Because when we work together, that's all the things that we see, that everybody says, oh my God, that's amazing, right? Whenever you see it, is because not a one person has done it. Even people who are, like in the Guinness Book of World Record, or people who have won Olympic championship, they don't do it by themselves. They become
Mm-mm.
the embodiment where they have hundreds of people supporting them. in making them get there. They end up getting the stage, or they look like but there's so many people who contribute to that. So at the end of the day, we need to remember that who packed your parachute when you were skydiving, right? And that person gets the exact same credit as you, because you wouldn't be on the stage bragging about your skydiving if that person did not do it right? So we all need each other all the time.
So you're making me think, look for opportunities to ask for and receive from others, as well as to give and to provide to others. I love that. And that's something that anyone can do at any moment, starting right now.
Right. And then when you combine that with what we just talked earlier about the expectation, right?
Yeah.
Is that when you don't, right?
Oh yeah.
So
That's important piece.
To do whatever if you're broadcasting love, and if you're not getting love back, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't stop broadcasting love just because
Absolutely.
you did not get it, because that's where then you're letting the external decide whom you are going to be internally. And that is where the sabotage happens. And we want to keep shining our light as bright as possible.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you, as we're starting to wrap up, if there were one message, because you've given a lot of messages, but if there's one message or something you want to add that I didn't ask you about that you want everyone in the audience to hear or to know, what would it be?
Just follow your bliss. Without any judgment, without any expectation, without any agenda.
I love that. Follow your bliss. Shehnaz, thank you so much for being on the show. I am so grateful you said yes. I love your energy, and I look forward to what you and I will be creating and potentially co-creating in the future. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Laura, for this quantum convergence.
Love it.